I am Ibrahim Traoré, and today I'm pulling off your masks. Yes, you heard correctly. I, whom you call a young military junta leader, whom you brand as a dangerous radical, whom you serve up as an anti-Western dictator.
Potential, a continent rich with resources, culture, and resilience, yet burdened by division, exploitation, and the heavy shadow of foreign influence. Traoré's speech was not just another political address, it was a call to action, a vision that pierced through the noise of global geopolitics and awakened a deep yearning for unity among Africans everywhere. With every word, he struck chords of pride and urgency, weaving history with the present and reminding his audience that Africa's destiny must not be dictated by outsiders. He spoke of unity not as an abstract dream but as a practical necessity, a survival strategy for a continent too often fractured by borders drawn by colonial rulers and conflicts fueled by external powers. His voice carried the energy of someone who believes in the strength of Africa's people, not as scattered nations struggling alone but as one collective force capable of shaping its own future. What made this speech so powerful was its raw authenticity. It was not dressed in the usual political jargon or diplomatic vagueness. Traoré dared to challenge the status quo, speaking openly about the exploitation of Africa's resources, the manipulation of its leaders, and the systemic efforts to keep the continent dependent on others. These were not comfortable truths, yet he delivered them with the kind of conviction that made it impossible to dismiss. He spoke directly to the youth, the farmers, the workers, and the everyday men and women who are the backbone of Africa but are too often left voiceless in the halls of power. In doing so, he gave ownership of the vision back to the people, reminding them that unity is not the responsibility of governments alone but of every African who dreams of freedom and dignity. Traoré painted a vivid picture of what unity could achieve. Imagine an Africa where borders are not barriers but bridges, where resources are harnessed for the benefit of Africans first, where education, technology, and innovation flow across the continent without obstruction, and where Africa speaks with one strong voice on the global stage. He emphasized that unity is not about erasing cultural diversity or national identities but about embracing them as strengths under a shared vision. This vision is what transforms the idea of a united Africa from mere rhetoric into a living, breathing movement. The hooks of his speech came in the form of piercing questions that lingered long after he spoke them. How long will Africa remain divided when its greatest strength lies in its people coming together? How much longer will its resources enrich others while its children struggle to survive? These questions were not asked to provoke guilt but to awaken responsibility, to make every listener realize that passivity is no longer an option. His words resonated because they were not just criticisms, they were a roadmap toward dignity and power. It is rare for a speech to transcend politics and become a rallying cry, but this is exactly what happened. Traoré tapped into a deep reservoir of frustration and hope that exists within Africans across the continent and the diaspora. His vision was not about one leader or one country, it was about rewriting the narrative of an entire continent. It was about taking control of Africa's destiny from those who seek to divide it and placing it firmly in the hands of Africans themselves. What shook Africa was not only the boldness of his message but the realization that this vision is possible. For decades, unity has been spoken of, but rarely pursued with the urgency and clarity that Traoré expressed. By declaring that Africa can no longer afford to be a collection of isolated voices, he placed the idea of unity at the heart of survival and progress. He reminded the world that a united Africa is not just a dream for Africans but a force that would reshape global power dynamics, challenging the very structures that have long kept Africa on the margins. This was more than a speech, it was a moment of awakening. It was a reminder that Africa's story is still being written and that the next chapter belongs to those bold enough to envision it differently. Traoré's words ignited conversations in villages, cities, and parliaments, across borders and languages, proving that unity is not just an idea, it is a movement waiting to be embraced.